Okay, hello everybody. Brennan, Chris Joseph, and anyone else that wants to learn how to take their mogul skiing and apply it to old school type powder skiing. And this is so just using. I have to make these videos 15 minutes or less. This is my target. So I'm going to talk pretty quick. Um, so these photos were taken this past ski season in Mount Hood Meadows. They all have this watermark over them. That's the guy who took the photos. He owns the photos themselves. What I did was you go onto his website and you can scroll through low resolution copies of the photos, and then there's a link to buy the high resolution photo from the photographer. So I just grabbed the low resolution ones and put them together. So the catch to this old school kind of powder skiing is that I'm on a ski that as I mentioned in video 0, it's 80 underfoot, 110 at the tip, and 103 at the waist. So they have a little bit of shape, but they're similar to like a ski from the 90s, except wider. They're full camber, poplar wood or some sort of light wood, springy wood construction, and that's what we want for this type of skiing. So how to translate your mogul skiing, your modern day mogul skiing to powder skiing. These videos do a fairly, I think I can do a good job illustrating that. So this run, just where he set up, it ended up working out really well. So the idea is the technique is all the same. The body position is all the same. You keep your hands, they're in line in front of you, ideally in front of your knees. Knees generally are together, boots are together. Your field of vision is down here. This is where your primary field of vision is, where you're planning your next 2 or 3 turns, and then here in your peripheral vision is where you are just confirming what you had planned. That it's kind of like, okay, there's no change, so you can go with what your plan was. So all that's kind of the same. Pole movement is similar, maybe a little bit different, but so we'll get started here. So what I'd like you guys to imagine is if I am going through a zipper line of moguls. So there would have been a mogul back there. My pole tends to move off of it. I've planted kind of on the back side of a mogul. And what's happening in this setup is the absorption and extension phases are the opposite of modern day mogul skiing. So in modern day mogul skiing, you would start absorbing the shoulder, right? So if I'm in the trough between 2 moguls, I'm going to absorb the shoulder and come down the backside of the mogul in that scheme. So I would get shorter here as I climb up the shoulder of the mogul, and then as I come off the backside of the mogul, and here, this is where you're getting taller and carving on the backside of the mogul to control your speed. So that's the scheme for mogul skiing in this kind of powder skiing, this old school powder skiing technique. What we do instead is the opposite. So I'm in the trough right now. So I'm actually at my shoulder. When you're in the trough and you've planted your pole, so you're in the transition phase, so my skis are pointed this way, you are at your shortest. So I am most compressed here, so maximum absorption, right? And what happens in powder skiing is as you come down and you compress the snow underneath your ski, and that builds a solid platform, and you're going to initiate your turn off of that solid platform. You can imagine that that's occurring at the shoulder of the mogul. So if there was a mogul there, it's like I am going to initiate my turn once I've built a platform underneath my skis. And you build that platform by applying that downward pressure by going down and kind of pushing into the snowpack. Your skis will form a base. You'll feel it. You do form a base, and that's when you initiate your turn. And then what happens is you ride over that shoulder you've created. So once you've initiated your turn, you start to stand up, you extend, and the combination of the ski going from being flexed and then its camber springing back, the tip of the ski moving in the snowpack, and then your extension, it will pop you out of the snow. You'll get rise. I mean, you don't pop, but you get rise out of the snowpack, and so you have movement within the snowpack, and that's the critical difference is that you are the opposite phase of compression and extension. So here, instead of being being prepared to absorb the shoulder, I'm actually going to extend off the shoulder. I think of it as like an 80s, 90s mogul turn, where you kind of fly off the shoulder of the mogul and you turn in the air, land on the back side of the next mogul, or the front side of the next mogul. The wrong way. So you can see here I popped off of that mogul. That mogul's now back here somewhere. I've gone past it, and I'm in the air. So my skis are now in the air, and I kind of left the snowpack. And this is the variability you get with powder skiing, is the amount that you pop out of the snowpack depends on how dense and how light the snow is or heavy the snow is. So there's a difference between density of snow and lightness and heaviness to the snow, moisture content. Those mean different things, but and they will give you different levels of rebound. So as you build that base of pressure and come out, you're going to get different levels of rebound. And so moving forward on to the next turn. So I'm in the air. So these two turns, the key here is that you're in the air and you've already initiated the turn, so you have the rotational inertia, and the skis are going to come across the fall line. So they go from still pointed across the fall line to now they're pointed down the fall line, and they've just made contact with the snow again, but they're not. They're still kind of in the air. It's not until we get to here that they've remade contact with the snow, and now they're across the fall line in the other direction. Right now they're pointed this way. So that's the kind of the fundamentals. So you can see again. So I've left this mogul well behind now. Imagine that there's another mogul in here. The pole movement similar. It's mostly a wrist movement with a little bit of forearm. So the pole's going to come forward. It's going to plant, aiming for the top of that next mogul. And you can see I'm starting to get shorter. I'm starting to compress. So I'm going down in height. And as you go down, you're entering the snowpack. Your skis build that base of support underneath them. As you compress snow and compact it underneath the ski. And then the newer snow then rides up over your boot, and that's where you get this tail of snow. It's classic to powder skiing. And then so you make that pole plant on the next, kind of the backside of the next mogul. So now you can imagine here I'm riding over that shoulder that I've created of compressed snow. So in that 1980s, early 90s mogul turn, or in this powder skiing, I'm starting to extend. So I've already initiated my turn at this point, and I'm going to start standing up, and then you'll see I'll be airborne. There I am in the air. Now my skis are basically down the fall line, and then you'll see in the next shot they're starting to come across, well, not so much there, but here. Now they're across the fall line this way. And I've left that mogul long behind. And then here I'm already getting ready for that next turn. Like I said, the field of vision, my primary field of vision is down here. And this is my plan. So I planned my next couple of turns. Just like in mogul skiing, you're looking ahead, planning your next couple of turns. And then your peripheral vision here, you're just confirming what you had planned. Just like when you're driving a car, you're not looking right in front of your bumper when you drive. Your primary field of vision is down the road based off how fast you're going, and that your here in the now driving is done with your peripheral vision. And it's just confirming that nothing's changed. A dog or something hasn't run in front of your car or something like that. Okay, let's keep moving. So these are a good set of shots right here. So you can imagine I've planted on the mogul. This thing creates artifacts. You'll have to ignore that. And now I'm compressing, so I'm at my shortest. As I've compressed down, my skis have built this base of snow underneath them. And I'm going to initiate my turn off of that. And then that acts kind of like that ramp or the shoulder of the mogul, if there was a mogul there. And then I come off of that. Since I've already initiated my turn with my pole plant, my body's already starting to rotate, and that momentum, the forward momentum, is keeping me moving. And so I'll come around like that in the air, and then you start to make contact, and again you're already moving for that next turn, and you can see the skis are now contact, compressed. So you immediately go into that next compression cycle. So that mogul is in here. I've just pole planted on it. I'm coming off the shoulder, so right now I'm getting almost in my shortest. I think you don't see it, but I probably got a little bit shorter before I popped off the back. And there's no jumping here. So even though I'm coming out of the snowpack, I am not jumping. There is not an actual jump. It's the combination of how much rebound the snow gives me. So as my skis, as they're in this phase, the skis are in this phase, they get bent into a rocker essentially, and then as they're bent into a rocker, they want to spring back into camber. So the combination of that springing back into camber, my extension upward, and then the natural ramp that the shoulder of that mogul is going to provide me are what lift me out of the snowpack. There's not a jump, and you just keep moving forward. So and we'll look at some of these shots later on. This shot right here is a particularly good shot because you can see what the compression looks like, and we'll discuss it. I'll use this one to discuss ski equipment, but you can see the full camber of the ski. There's no pressure on it right now. Hands are in front of me, in front of my knees or shin pressure. Everything looks good. My vision is down here, and once I touch the snow, now you can see that the skis have actually gone from their full camber already into this rocker. That's the compression phase. So I'm compressing with the snow underneath the ski, and obviously it deforms the ski, but that's where I build the base to initiate the next turn. And then you can see here that the snow is more dense here. You see how there's like a wind crust and chunks of snow. Somebody must have turned just above me and kicked snow right here. So there's some density to the snow. So I'm not sinking in it as much as up above. And that's some of the variability with powder skiing, is that it's going to, how much you sink in, it'll change a bit throughout a run from top, middle, bottom. It always kind of varies, and you as a skier make those adjustments for the changing snowpack. Okay, and we'll just pop through these. So here's the same day. This was like my next run. The camera guy stayed put, and I wanted to keep skiing this. So when you're powder skiing, you keep going back to the same spots. But you can see I'm coming in. Here I'm eyeballing that next spot. It's like there's that mogul. I'm planted on the backside of the mogul. My skis are already building up pressure, and as if I'm going to ramp off the shoulder of that mogul, then I pop in the air. The transition to the turn is in the air, and I come back down into the new snow, into the powder, and then I'd start the same process over again. And again, the density, every turn is slightly different, and so you're making really fine motor skill adjustments or pressure adjustments. So this series of shots just want to show so you use a different, it's an opposite pole logic. So you use a very long pole and adjustable sometimes. I always use adjustable poles now based off the snow conditions and the steepness of the slope, with big baskets just so that they don't post hole. You end up losing about up to maybe 2 feet of pole length depending on the depth of the snow, the density of the snow, and the steepness of the slope. And again, though, you can see though that a lot of the pole, the arms kind of stay in the same zone. The arms sit in a zone, a little bit of forearm movement, but largely wrist movement. And so your poles, if you're doing it well, your poles will often cross each other, making a little cross shape. And you do apply more pressure to control. We'll talk about this in another video, but you do apply more pole pressure to control your center of mass, how your center of mass moves. But this gives you a good idea of what your poles do when you're powder skiing. Okay, so that's the absorption compression cycle of powder skiing. So just to quickly summarize, it is the same, all the technique is the same as your mogul skiing technique, except that you're absorbing in the trough of the mogul rather than on the shoulder of the mogul, and you are extending on the shoulder of the mogul rather than absorbing. So that's where they're out of phase to each other. Other than that, the technique is pretty much the same. Okay, we'll see you guys in the next video.